The midday sun blazed above the crowded city square, relentless and unforgiving, casting sharp shadows across the pavement as people rushed by without sparing a glance. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary day: cars honking, street vendors shouting, office workers hurrying to lunch. But right at the heart of this bustling scene stood a frail, pale girl whose presence seemed out of place amidst the city's pulse. Her clothes, softened with age, hung loosely on her small frame, her shoes far too large, and her tangled hair told of sleepless nights in places no child should ever have to be. Her name was Arya Vale, and in her trembling hand, she clutched the only thing she had left in the world, a small copper ring her mother had given her before she passed away. Today, out of hunger so sharp it hurt to breathe, Arya had decided to sell it. If you believe in compassion and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to the world. The ring wasn't worth much. It wasn't made of gold, nor did it have any precious stones. But Arya had spent the morning cleaning it using water from a public fountain, carefully polishing it with the softest corner of her frayed sleeve. It was priceless. It had once been held by her mother, kissed by her mother, and it carried the words her mother had whispered to her. This is your reminder that no matter what happens, you are never empty. But hunger is a powerful thief. It steals choices, pride, and if left unchecked, even memories. When Arya's stomach twisted once more, she closed her hand gently around the ring and whispered an apology to her mother. Before stepping into the sunlit plaza, she picked the wealthiest-looking person. She saw a tall man in an immaculate navy suit, stepping out of a sleek black car with tinted windows. His name was Sebastian Rowan, one of the youngest billionaires in the city. Though Arya didn't know who he was, she saw someone who appeared to have enough money to trade for a small meal. She approached him timidly, almost turning away twice, before forcing herself to speak. But before she could, she saw him kneel down to tie his shoe. That was when their eyes met, his filled with surprise, hers filled with fear and quiet resolve. Sebastian wasn't used to being approached by anyone except business people, reporters, or photographers. Yet here was this fragile child standing in front of him, holding a tiny ring as though it were something sacred. The noise of the city seemed to fade as he truly looked at her, her thin frame, her cracked lips, the tremble in her hands. For a moment, he forgot about the meeting he was late for. Arya raised her hand slightly, her voice barely above a whisper, despite the sun blazing down on them. She told him she wanted to sell the ring, that she only needed enough for a sandwich. Her eyes didn't beg. They simply held a weary kind of hope that he had never seen in an adult, let alone a child. Sebastian expected to see a cheap trinket, something ordinary. But when he looked at the ring, something stirred inside him. The copper was worn, but faintly engraved on the inside was an intricate swirl forming the letter V. Sebastian's heart skipped. He knew that symbol. He had seen it years ago, etched inside a handmade bracelet given to him by a young volunteer at a children's shelter he used to support. That volunteer had been Marin Vale, his first love, a woman with eyes full of kindness and dreams of helping children in need. She had disappeared from his life one day, leaving only a short note saying she needed to disappear for a while. He never saw her again, and her last name had been Vale. Suddenly, everything clicked. The timing, the symbol, the girl's blue eyes so much like Marin's, and the ring. Marin had once told him she wore a copper ring passed down through generations, from her mother to her grandmother. Sebastian's breath caught in his throat. His heart pounded as the world around him seemed to freeze. He turned the ring in his fingers, confirming what he already feared. This wasn't just any child asking for food. This was someone tied to a chapter of his life he had never healed from. Arya watched him anxiously, not knowing why he was staring at her with a look that seemed to mix shock with something like sorrow. She didn't care to understand. She was hungry, exhausted, and just wanted enough money for bread. But instead of handing her money immediately, Sebastian softly asked her where her parents were. Arya hesitated before answering. She told him that her mother had died 2 years ago from an illness, and that she had never known her father. They had moved from shelter to shelter until the spaces filled up, and then she simply wandered the city, living off leftovers, kindness, and the courage too big for her small body. The ring, she said, was the last piece of family she had left. As she spoke, Sebastian felt his world shift. He realized, with the sudden clarity that hit him like a wave, that he had stepped into this plaza at the exact moment fate had meant him to. The exact day. And this child, standing before him, was somehow connected to his past. An impossible thought bloomed in his chest, a thought that made his throat tighten. He asked Arya her mother's full name. Marin Vale Rowan, she answered quietly. Rowan, Sebastian whispered. The world seemed to tilt beneath him. Marin had left him because she was pregnant, scared that her illness would burden him, that the media attention would crush their child's future. She had disappeared to give birth in secret, raising Arya alone until she could no longer fight her sickness. That meant the little girl standing before him, this fragile, hungry child, was his daughter. In that moment, Sebastian didn't see a stranger. He saw a life he had never known existed, a life he should have protected, a life he was meant to love. He didn't tell her the truth right away. It felt too overwhelming to place suddenly on her tiny shoulders. But he promised her she would never go hungry again. He took Arya to a small cafe nearby, letting her eat until she could eat no more, watching as tears slipped down her cheeks when warm food touched her stomach for the first time in days. And as she ate, he held the ring gently, realizing that it wasn't a treasure to be sold, but a symbol that had brought his family back to him. That evening, he brought her home to a house too big and too silent for years. As sunlight filtered across the marble floors, casting soft shadows over Arya's tired face, he vowed silently that he would give her every joy she had been denied. He would learn to be a father from scratch, and he would keep her mother's memory alive in every act of love. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share. Your support helps Kindness Corner continue spreading warmth and hope through powerful stories. Before you go, please comment, "Kindness lives on," to let us know you're still with us. And so, the girl who tried to sell her only treasure for food ended up finding something far more precious: family, love, and a future brighter than the sunlit day that changed everything.